Welcome to an impromptu edition of the Pierce the Canvas podcast. This is Pierce, as always, here for a Dynamite review. Wasn't able to make Wednesday, so I thought I wasn't too busy on this Friday, so I was like, why not knock out this podcast? Doing it a little late today here, but it was a decent enough show, built enough on story that I think it's worth going back and talking about. It certainly wasn't any kind of blowaway show or anything that you really had to go out of your way to see, but they're teasing the main event for All Out, or at least the supposed main event, which I'm in agreement and also in hope that it's not actually, as I expressed last week. That would be Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship. So they're teasing that or not even teasing, they've literally confirmed that that's going to be the main event of All Out. However, we'll get into kind of what else will be happening and kind of what my thoughts are about that whole thing. So that was a pretty significant part of the show today. But other than that, we just got pretty much quality matches, all throughout the show. Um, and the show started off with an MJF promo. Basically said that he's beaten Jericho twice. Jericho's never beat him. That's why he goes through all this emotional and physical turmoil. He says that it's definitely made for great TV, right? With the Nick Gage match, everything else that's been going on. MJF says he's starting to feel bad because of how much he went through and because how much Jericho went through and because he's so close, but unfortunately will be stopped by Wardlow. Says if, like Hercules, he somehow gets through the fourth labor, he went through it only to find out that he's better than Jericho, and Jericho knows it. Wardlow says that Jericho will be defeated. MJF mocks him, talking about how he couldn't even beat Cody, and Wardlow expresses that he's not too happy about that. So they're kind of teasing that Wardlow's going to probably go separate ways, eventually leave the Pinnacle, I guess, altogether, MJF and the Pinnacle. And so the first match of the night was the Elite versus Dante Martin, Matt Sydal, and Mike Sydal. And this was just like a real great showcase match for the babyfaces here. All three of these guys are amazingly athletic, and Dante Martin did some stuff that I've just never really seen in the ring before. Dante's been really like throughout this match inventing these hurricanranas I've like never seen before. These insane dives. There's one spot where Matt and Mike kind of assist Dante and catapults him off the ropes onto the heels on ringside. Just stuff like that I've never seen. I'm like, it's impossible not to be really impressed by this stuff. And during the match, actually, it was just during the first match. I don't even know if they mentioned this before, have they? But yeah, it was during the match. The announcers are like, yeah, so now it's confirmed that Christian Cage will face Kenny Omega at All Out in the main event. And I was like, what? Right? Because I don't really agree with that decision. But I'm not so sure that that's really the direction they're going to go. And again, we'll get into that a bit later. The Elite throughout the match here were working very heelish, very old school. Like they did very little shine spots and high spots and stuff like that. Very old school heel wrestling that they were doing here, except for some spots. Like they did this assisted Kotaro Crusher. That's totally not so old school. But for the most part, they're adopting that old school style as heels. Matt Sydal able to get a comeback at one point, lands a Fisherman Buster for a near fall. Double Rana by Matt and Mike Sydal onto the Bucks. Locks a crossface. Mike adds to the damage as well. Just assists with the submission until Kenny breaks it up. Dante gets to the ring for a comeback, and he landed on his feet from a dragon suplex, which is really cool. Lands an Enziguri, gets a hot tag, lands a tope, crazy outside Rana, lands a springboard roll up for a near fall. Everyone at this point in the match is taking each other out with knees, super kicks, thrust kicks, strikes, everything that you could name. Kenny ends the exchange with a V trigger, lands Ushigurushi onto Dante, lands a V trigger. Dante escapes a one winged angel attempt but eats a V trigger, reverses a Tiger Driver for a near fall, eats another V trigger, able to Kenny's able to land the one winged angel at this point. The Young Bucks take out the Sydals. And the Elite win via BTE V Trigger. So they weren't, the babyfaces were not able to take out the Elite here. Of course, they remain dominant, especially going into the pay per view. And Tony Schiavone came into the ring for post-match interview. Don Callis doesn't let him speak, just takes the mic and says that Pittsburgh has never seen a winning team like the Elite. Quickly distracted by Christian Cage, his theme song comes on, and they actually cut to commercial at this point, so we had to wait for the rest of the segment. They come back, and Don calls him a Stamford Scooge, or Stooge, I don't know. Says that he's not bright, but he can count that there's 10 of them and one of him. And so out comes Jurassic Express for the backup. And actually, sorry, it was after Jurassic Express came out, they went to commercial. And then once they got back, the faces are all in the ring at this point, and Don Callis points out that they're all number one contenders. Uh, Jurassic Express for the tag team, and of course Christian Cage for the world championship. And they confirm once again that Christian's getting the shot at All Out, and the fans didn't seem too happy. They started just going crazy with CM Punk chants. You can't hear anything that Don Callis is saying at this point. They even started doing yes chants shortly thereafter. And Callis said that Christian is a ring general. He's got the best finisher other than the one-winged angel, and we'll see Kenny kick out of the kill switch. Callis says Kenny will give Christian the 5-star match he always wanted, but it won't be in Pittsburgh. It will be, of course, at All Out, they're saying here. Christian calls him a carny piece of shit. He takes it back after, says that since we're in Pittsburgh right now, you're a carny jag-off. Because I guess I've never heard of jag-off before. I guess it's a Pittsburgh thing. The crowd popped. So Christian says he talked to Tony Khan. The match is locked in for All Out, and he puts over the title, says for the most prestigious, important reward in sports, or whatever he said. Says Kenny has more than one title. Says he also talked to Scott D'Amore and Tony Khan together, and they made a match, which will be Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage for the Impact title, the first match on AEW Rampage, which I will be back later on to review. I will be there tonight. So yes, Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage for the Impact title at Rampage, again in the very first match. And Jurassic Express shortly after revealed that they'll face the Young Bucks for the titles, I believe, on Dynamite next week. And so the heels are pissed off, and they can't believe this happened. So yeah, so just getting into my thoughts about that, I think that Kenny is going to be dropping the title to Christian Cage, and I think that there's going to be a lot of stuff going on after Christian wins the title, in my opinion, and they're going to sleekly book their way out of this this supposed main event here. So I don't think that it's actually going to take place at All Out in the main event. I think that that's what they're saying now, but when CM Punk comes, I'm not sure if it's going to be him, but there'll be some sort of angle. They'll be able to get out of this somehow. Maybe that's just wishful thinking on my part, but I'm pretty sure they're aware that nobody, not to see that I want to see that match, but there's so much more that could be done. It's, but that's what we have for now. Kenny versus Christian, both at All Out and for Rampage tonight. And now we cut to a vignette by Malachi Black. He's talking to a mask in some foreign language. I have absolutely no clue what language or if it's a real language. Says he proved everything he said he'd do to Cody in the match. Said it was going to be quick, short, and violent. That's exactly what it was. He says that he's the advocate for those who speak the truth, and they are always labeled as the fool. Says there's no time for doubting Black. Says he chooses solitude, and says that Cody has one foot in the grave, and he actually shows off he took Cody's boot. Says whoever is next, he'll make you feel desolate and alone, and they'll understand that the volume of your voice is so low you realize you've been arguing with God. Just talking, like saying that promo is like insane. But great delivery, good promo. I liked it. Real cool, and I'm excited to see what's next. And we get another little vignette from Miro. After his retain, he beat Lee Johnson last week. Says that he lives by vengeful God, and I think he's like asking God, please keep pleasing my wife or something like that. Says that he was called to forgive, and he beat the shit out of Lee Johnson. But he will be offering another chance to whoever wants to step up next, and his next opponent will actually be signed to the company if he wins, and that's Fuego del Sol. So yeah, We're gonna see Fuego have his Dynamite debut. I think it's his Dynamite debut match next week. Good old Sammy Guevara vlog, superstar there. And so next match was Daniel Garcia with 2.0, who I actually know the names of now, Matt Lee and Jeff Parker. It's all good. Versus Darby Allin. Sting is ringside on Darby's corner. And Daniel had a short pre-match promo saying that he would have beat Darby if Moxley and Kingston weren't in the way last week. That was, and 2.0 tells Sting to keep away. I think they said keep away from the ring, but he was scheduled to be ringside. I'm not sure if that's what they said. It was something like that. And it was a very slow and technical match for the most part. Daniel Garcia really did take most of the match to show off his style, I suppose. Very, very slow, holds, you know what I mean? 2.0 at one point gets the distraction on the ref, and Sting death stares 2.0. Gave him the death stare of a lifetime. Daniel lands a hammerlock drop for a 2 count, locks in a butterfly lock, and there's a comeback by Darby Allin, and they're both just trading shots at this point. Darby's slapping the shit out of Daniel Garcia, and he goes for this middle rope springboard coffin drop type of move, but Daniel just catches him and locks in a rear naked choke. Darby's able to escape. He lands his stunner, heads up top, lands the coffin drop for the win. So it was a pretty solid match. Like I said, it was slower. It's one of the slower Darby Allin matches you'll see. But of course they're trying to introduce this new Daniel Garcia guy. He's a great wrestler. I think it's only on up for him and 2.0, and I don't think any of them are signed right now. I think they're still unsigned talent. But 2.0 is going to have a match against Sting. That's got to be unreal for those guys. So after the match, 2.0 just start beating on Darby, and Sting intervenes, takes out 2.0. Darby spears Parker. Sting lands a suplex on Matt Lee on the ramp, and Sting proceeds to just kind of beat up Jeff Parker after that. So for the next segment, we actually had, for the first time in a month, we had Penta, Ray, and Pac all together. There was no travel issues this time. That Andrade somehow caused. I still don't understand how that's even possible. But yeah. Ray says that with all the things Andrade's trying to do, they need to do something about it at this point. Pac says not to worry about Andrade, he'll worry about it. They need to focus on winning the tag team gold. Pac tells Andrade that they don't know him. They as in Chavo and Andrade. They don't know him. They don't like him. They don't know why Andrade is so obsessed with the Lucha Brothers and Pac. Says it stops now, and that if he has a problem, that Pac's easy to find. So basically challenges Andrade to a match, which I think is going to be fantastic. I'm really excited for it. Next, we got a 6-man tag. Orange Cassidy versus Chuck Taylor versus Wheeler Yuta. Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, Wheeler Yuta versus Private Party and Matt Hardy. My bad. And match was alright. It kind of went on a bit longer than I think it really needed to, or longer than I think anybody really wanted to see. Early in the match, Hardy's able to land a side effect on Orange Cassidy. Cassidy's able to land a first rope fall on Hardy. He just no-sells everything, right? So when he dives off the rope, he just falls. Orange lands his weak kicks to Isaiah Cassidy, and gets some assist move with Wheeler Yuta. Private Party lands a silly string to Yuta. Yuta lands a second rope double drop kick to Private Party. The Bunny confronts Chris Statlander at one point. I guess she was ringside because she's part of the HFO. Yeah. Nyla Rose also just came out of nowhere and attacked Statlander, so I guess... oh no, they were having a match coming up, so I suppose that was the end of that feud during that match. It started and began on the same show. Or it began and ended, I should say. Chuck Taylor gets a hot tag, powerbombs Private Party onto each other, lands a spinning Liger bomb on Mark Quinn for a near fall. Cassidy lands his DDT on Hardy, as well as a tope. That's Orange Cassidy. I realize there's 2 Cassidys in this match, so I gotta be specific. Taylor lands a Uranagi to Isaiah Cassidy. Yuta lands a splash from the top, and Yuta lands a German suplex. At this point, Mark Quinn was in the ring, and Isaiah Cassidy was able to break the count with a swanton. Party land Gin and Juice on Wheeler. Orange Cassidy breaks it up. Orange Punch to Isaiah, and Matt Hardy's able to Orange Punch to Isaiah, and then one of them, I think Isaiah Cassidy or Mark Quinn, took out Orange Cassidy. Matt Hardy's able to land a Twist of Fate on Wheeler for the win. And yeah, pretty solid match. Again, it just went on a little longer than I think it really needed to. And afterward, we hear from Andrade and Chavo. They're with Dasha Gonzalez, and says that Pac is ungrateful. Chavo says that he showed them respect, and this is the thanks they get. Andrade tells Pac to be careful for what he wishes for. Chavo tells Andrade to teach Pac who the boss is at All Out. So it's on. We're actually going to get the Pac versus Andrade match. And that's going to be a show stealer. I'm very excited for that. So we see a video package for the next FTR versus Proud and Powerful, not Private Party, Proud and Powerful match. And they actually like criticize Cash Wheeler for ending the match early, even though they literally go to a shot of his arm 5 inches open, and he was like bleeding like a puddle of blood. Ugh. It says they're not going anywhere, so they basically confirm that we're gonna get another match. And then we get Nyla Rose versus Chris Statlander, and Statlander lands a pendulum moonsault on the outside. Vicky Guerrero is ringside with Nyla Rose and screams in Orange Cassidy's ear. He's also ringside for Chris Statlander. Nyla chokeslams Statlander on the apron. Rose spears Statlander while she's doing a handstand. I think Statlander was like reversing a move and did a handstand, and Nyla Rose just like speared her while she was upside down. That was kind of cool. Statlander lands a powerbomb to Rose, which is like pretty impressive. Statlander lands her 451 Area 451 splash for the win. And that was it, really. It wasn't a great match. There was like I liked that spear spot. That was kind of cool. It kind of made it worth it, but it wasn't anything fantastic. And we hear from the Young Bucks returning the message to Jurassic Express about the title match, and they're in their basketball gimmick. Says the extremely violent people struck again, and they say goodbye to Hangman Page. They say they proved to be the best of all time. Nick says it's as easy as a layup, and he actually goes for it, but Luchasaurus actually like blocks the crap out of this thing. The ball flies across the room there, and or actually no, I think it flew over to Jungle Boy. He catches it, and he actually goes for a layup. I think Luchasaurus like did a screen. It was like a 2-on-2 game for like a couple seconds. Nick called a foul. So yeah. In the next segment, we hear from Red Velvet before the Britt Baker segment, which she was. Red Velvet was quite, not the focus of the segment, that's for sure. But she does praise Britt Baker, says that she's the one who started this new era. She's not happy with just seeing Britt Baker at the top, and says that she's had to prove herself when she came to AEW, and she's climbed her way to the top 5 rankings. That's really all she got to say here, while Baker got the pop of a lifetime. So we cut to Tony Schiavone in the ring to introduce Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, to a hot Pittsburgh crowd. They were very, very energetic for Britt Baker. Understandably so. Tony says that this Friday she defends her women's title against Red Velvet, the rising Red Velvet. Baker says that she can't comment on the rise because she can't relate. She's always been at the top, the face of the division, the baddest bitch on the block, which I thought was Jade Cargill's gimmick, so they're probably going to have some feud over the badder bitch. Her fearlessness she can relate to. She wasn't afraid to step up when AEW needed a new women's era, when her city needed a champion. So she's like, kind of not dissing, but she's acknowledging that Pittsburgh just has no winning teams or anything. So she's basically saying that she's the hope that Pittsburgh has. Says she bleeds black and gold, but it's been a difficult year, and again, she says that she represents hope to Pittsburgh. She says, speaking of hope, Red Velvet would have a glimmer of hope in any other city. says this Friday it's her versus Red Velvet in the main event. So they confirmed here that it'll be the main event of the first Rampage show, which is pretty cool. And Red Velvet runs into the ring for an attack until it's quickly broken up. Ricky Starks, next up, we see will face Brian Cage next week. They said they'll face each other, but I don't know if it's like during a match. They said man to man without Team Taz. And that was pretty much it. So I'm not sure if it's in the match. I don't think so. It might be like a promo segment. And next match is Grayson and Uno versus the Good Brothers for the Impact Tag Team titles. And Scott D'Amore actually came out for commentary for this match. And Grayson started the match early with an outside dive before the bell rung. Um, Cutler actually, at one point, he was ringside, pulled Uno off the apron. He landed head face first down on it. Colt just punches him right in the face. Frankie Kazarian comes out, takes Cutler to the back. Grayson lands a big DDT, literally hopping off of Carl Anderson's back and landing a DDT to Luke Gallows. Lands a Uranagi and some twisting springboard move for a near fall. Double team offense by the faces, including 450 splash, senton combination for a near fall. Flatliner by Uno to Carl Anderson. The faces go for fatality. It's reversed. Carl Anderson lands stun gun, or gun stun. Sorry, is it gun stun? I think it is. Maybe it's stun gun. I don't even remember. And then both the Good Brothers pick him up for a Magic Killer for the win. And so yeah, that was pretty much it. Still, the Impact Tag Champions is the Good Brothers. So just another really average match. So this was a very average episode of AEW Dynamite, but I'm sure that's necessary every now and then. Not every single show has to be the huge marquee show, because you just have to show that you could just put on a good regular show. You know what I mean? And they did that. And in the ratings, it came back pretty positive as well, just under 1 million viewers, and it's for like a really average show. So, the company's successful as far as I'm concerned. And next we hear from Camille for another brands match. This isn't even an AEW match that they're hyping. I guess I guess she's signed to AEW, so you could consider it somewhat an AEW match, but it won't be on an AEW show. So Camille says that she's a brick house. And says that she's hard hitting and doesn't give a fuck. Says that Layla Hirsch is good, but won't be able to get Camille down, which is probably true, if we're being honest. NWA Empower, their next event. I don't know if that's the name of the event or what it is, but the next NWA Empower event will feature this match. So, big match for NWA featuring an AEW wrestler. The Forbidden Door remains pretty wide open, except for that one company. And so Tony comes back to the ring for an interview with QT Marshall. And really not too sure why QT's on my screen so often. I gotta be honest. But I guess it was kind of cool what came out of this. Says that Tony has to apologize. I suppose, well, yeah, that was a segment that was planned. He did last week a vignette saying that Tony Schiavone has to apologize. So I guess it was supposed to be expected. So he tells Tony that he has to apologize to QT. But he says, you know what, instead I'll apologize for what I'm about to do to your son. So Tony Schiavone's son, Chris, was in attendance. And apparently he wants to be a wrestler. He's like a future AEW star, perhaps. So QT takes him and punches him in the stomach. I think the other Nightmare Factory people are like holding him up, holding him. Tony apologizes, calls QT a son of a bitch. QT lands an RKO to Chris. Like literally an RKO. It was not even like a diamond cutter. And out came Paul White. So this is the first time we're seeing him get physical here. So out came Big Show, or Paul White, whatever you want to call him. QT threw Aaron Solo into Big Show's grip. He landed a massive chokeslam and death stare to QT Marshall. So I guess that's what we're going to get. Paul White versus QT Marshall. Which we'll see how exciting that could be. I guess the program thus far is interesting. Chris Schiavone got attacked. Okay, so they have a story of some sort. But yeah, looking forward to that, I guess, kind of. And that brings us to the main event, which is the Labor number 4 for Chris Jericho. And this match is against Wardlow And there's not really a stipulation other than MJF is ringside. Last week I actually should kind of apologize for that. I said that he was going to be special refereeing. I'm one of those few people, like those 50% of the crowd who thought that's what he said. But no, that's not the case. He's just ringside. That's it. So they didn't really have a stipulation. It was just a normal match. Just MJF got to be ringside. And so early in the match, Jericho's actually able to land a code breaker. Wardlow kicks out at 1, and the announcers did their best job to sell how crazy it is they kicked out at 1. JR even went as far as to say, "Oh, I saw a dead man lose to that move before." So subtle Undertaker reference there. Wardlow begins dominating the match from this point, throwing Jericho with these suplexes, throws him onto the apron, throwing him into the ring post on the outside. And then he proceeds to just power bomb after power bomb. He landed 6. I actually counted them, and he landed 6 power bombs. This guy, so that's over like a 6-minute period. So I just jumped like 6 minutes into the match, and in between Jericho was teasing comebacks, but was mostly dominated. Wardlow's going for his corner knee finish, the same one where he like drags you down onto his knee. Jericho's able to reverse and lock in the walls until MJF rakes the eyes. MJF is caught sneaking in the diamond ring at this point. He gets ejected, and you could start like theorizing in kayfabe and stuff like, oh, I think because it kind of occurred to me that I think he meant to get ejected. He didn't want Wardlow to win this match. I think MJF, the character, is like getting excited like for this Jericho match. He's like, oh, I want this match to happen now. A and B, I think it's also to like break up with Wardlow too. So I think this was all intentional again, like in the storyline. MJF getting caught with the diamond ring, so he got ejected. Jericho picked up Floyd as bat, takes out Wardlow, lands his Judas effect for the win. So Jericho survived all 4 labors. There's still the 5th one against MJF, so he finally made it to the end goal. What he wants is the match against MJF. And so there's a post-match attack. Shawn Spears takes out Chris Jericho. Sammy Guevara comes for the save. MJF attacks Sammy Guevara, and the heels at this point overwhelm. So MJF locks the Salt of the Earth on Jericho. Hager comes to the save and chases off the heels. MJF introduces the stipulation for the next match against Jericho, which apparently is next week. I was thinking this was going to be at All Out, which is pretty mind-boggling. Who knows what either of them are going to do on the pay-per-view? I'm really not sure. But Jericho will not be allowed to use Judas Effect. He's also not going to be allowed to use his music before the match. So they're taking everything we love about Chris Jericho. Not everything, but those are like some of the main things. He'll come out to dead silence, he says. MJF wins if Jericho uses the Judas Effect. MJF predicts that Jericho will meet his successor, which is Maxwell Jacob Friedman. So that was to close the show, and I guess again we're getting the match next week on Dynamite, I believe, instead of at All Out, which really boggles my mind because like, what are these guys going to do on the pay-per-view? But yeah, again, overall good, solid wrestling show. It wasn't really much. It was definitely the least exciting one in like the last 6 weeks. But still a fine show, and I'm really excited for tonight. I will be back live at 11 o'clock, since the show is 10 and it's 1 hour long. So we'll be back for our first Rampage review. I'm really excited for that. Hope you tune in, and thank you again for your Dynamite coverage here at Pierce the Canvas. We'll be back later on. Take care.